What is next for Nate Diaz? Undoubtedly one of the biggest stars in the sport, has no fight and doesn't look like he's going to have a fight in the foreseeable future. So what do you do with him? He's already said that he wants to fight 2 to 4 times this year, which is unusual for Nate. He probably only fight 2 times maximum because of his cuts and how he fights. But when Nate does fight, it's usually very entertaining, and he is, because of that, one of the biggest stars in America, UFC. So what do you do with him? Well, Dana talked about going back to 155, but Nate said he owns that division. More likely, he doesn't want a weight cut because he's 34, which is fair enough. So I think we can rule out 155, which means 170, obviously. He said he'd go 185, but I don't know, obviously Dana wouldn't do that. So then you're looking at 170. So at 170, who's free? Well, you've got Usman the champ, because I think with Nate, it's got to be a main event because he is a main event fighter. So it's got to be a relatively high ranked person. So Usman's the champ. I'm not saying he would fight Usman, but he's not going to fight Usman because Usman will have a fight lined up either against Leon, Colby, or Masvidal. Leon is going to fight Bilal Muhammad in March, so that takes Leon out of the equation. Then you've got below that Colby. Colby will most likely be involved in Tough. If he's not, and if it's Usman versus Masvidal in Tough, then Colby is free, so we could potentially see Colby versus Nate. Masvidal is the next one. We've already seen that for the BMF belt. Masvidal won. The rematch makes itself. Nate can say it was an early stoppage, or duck the stoppage. The cut wasn't even that bad. Nate always gets cut. So you can make that fight. That fight works as the rematch if Masvidal doesn't get tied up with the rematch for Usman for Tough. And then you've got a couple of interesting fights. You've got Rafael dos Anjos, who I think wants to return to 155, but is still, a 170 fighter. That'd be a good fight. Both, quite good at grappling, be quite fun on the ground. And Nate came out in an interview with Ariel Helwani and said he called out, I think, 3 people, and they were Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, and I believe he mentioned Conor McGregor. The Conor McGregor fight will always be there, and that will always be one of the biggest fights in the UFC because Nate is so big in America and worldwide, and Conor is the biggest star. So that fight is always there, will always be there, and it's always a great fight. And at the moment, it's probably a very good fight for Conor as well. However, the UFC, it seems they are going in the direction of Poirier-Conor 3, which would also take Poirier out of the equation. Now, if that isn't for the belt, then you would assume that Charles Oliveira would also be out of the equation because you'd assume that Charles Oliveira would fight for the belt. Whether that fight be against Chandler or against Gaethje, you'd assume it'd be one of them. So that takes Charles Oliveira out of the equation. Unless Conor vs Poirier 3 is for the belt and Oliveira doesn't want to fight anyone at 55, he could come up to fight Nate at 70. Which would be an interesting fight because they're both very talented on the ground. Nate particularly from his back, with his triangles, with his long arms and long legs. So that would be an interesting fight if that was to come together. Nate also called out Poirier. As I say, it looks like Poirier is going to fight McGregor, but that would be an interesting fight as well. Poirier has openly spoken out in the past about wanting to fight 170 because it's nearer to his natural weight. I believe straight after the interview, Poirier tweeted, "A fight close to my natural weight would be great for me." So Poirier clearly has some interest in that fight. In the past, Nate's also called out, relatively recently, he called out Dan Hooker before his fight against Chandler. That'd be an interesting fight. Hooker has openly said he would love that fight. He would take that fight 100% at 70. That'd be a good fight. Both quite long, rangy fighters. Hooker good with the knees. A good with leg kick, which is an issue for Nate. Nate's not very good at defending those leg kicks. One of his issues, he's heavy on his front leg. So if you chop that leg, you take a bit of power away. But Hooker's never really been tested on the ground. So I don't know, that'd be an interesting fight. See how that'll play out. Be a good fight. So that's potentially one because Hooker's in a bit of a tough spot at the moment. Don't really know what he's going to do. Another fight, I think a fan's dream fight would be Tony versus Nate. 2 Mexican warriors. I think that fight would be amazing. And I think it's a good fight for Tony at the moment because Tony is in a bit of a tough spot at 155. I feel like it's probably the best time for him if he is to move up at any point in his career. I feel like this is the time to do it. You know, 2 fights skid. He can say, new beginning at 170. You know, if he wins at 170, he's won at 170. He's undefeated at 170. The 2 fight skid goes away. So I feel like that'd be a good fight for Tony, and I feel like it would be, as I say, a fan's favourite fight. Just imagine, you know, the elbows of Tony, the jiu-jitsu battles they'd have. You know, Tony's very good on the floor with his Imanari rolls and such. Trains with Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo, one of the greatest ground coaches of all time. And Nate, obviously, you know, long, rangy fighter. It should be interesting to see how the fight play out. Very interesting. With the chin that Nate has, the chin that Tony has, you know, taking that beating from Gaethje, I don't think we'd see a knockout. I think, if anything, it'd be either a submission or, you know, a blood war going distance, because Nate bleeds so much. Just don't have it in New York, because otherwise it'd be called like the Masvidal fight was. And then, what is there? It's hard to say other than that. I think they are probably the top ones. Gilbert Burns, maybe, but I feel Gilbert Burns got his eye on Covington. Another reason the Covington fight might not come through for Nate. I do think the Covington fight would be a bad fight for Nate, so I think he is better off sticking with other fights. My personal pick would be Nate versus Conor, but I don't want to see that yet. Out of all the fights I could ever see, Nate beating, Nate versus Conor 3 would be the fight, but I feel like that needs fans. You have to have fans for that fight. Without fans, that fight is nowhere near as big. Imagine the fans, you know, packed that arena, California. It would be incredible, absolutely amazing. So I feel like that even if that's one of the first fights back, that'd be incredible. But as I say, Conor looks to be tied up with Poirier. If he beats Poirier, which I don't think he will, then he's probably going to fight for the title at 155, which takes Nate out again. So Nate's in a great spot at the moment, really. There's no real obvious fights for him. Dos Anjos said he would fight him again, but he said he's not particularly interested in it last night in the Q&A. So you're really probably looking at either Tony Ferguson coming up to 170, which would be a very interesting fight, especially just to see Tony Ferguson to 170. Or maybe Dan Hooker at 170. Dan Hooker won't be big at 170, but he looks big at 155, so maybe 170 would do him well. He used to kill himself to get to 145. As I say, if the UFC doesn't go in the direction of Masvidal versus Usman, which I think they will, if they do switch it up and go Usman versus Covington because Masvidal's being too difficult in negotiations, then the Masvidal Diaz fight's always there. Like I say, easy to market. Nate can say it was a doctor stoppage. He didn't really beat me. I was going to come on stronger in 4 and 5. So that fight would be easy to sell. But yes, it's interesting to see what will happen. Very interesting. Right. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Nate. But if you have any ideas, leave them in the comments down below. I will read the comments. I'll see what you think. If you like this video, then please like it and subscribe. Thank you.